Without you, my heart is like a lost garden where no flowers bloom. These lines echoed in Elodie's mind like an old tune that kept returning without any clear reason. Each time she heard them, a pang rose in her chest, a growing emptiness, and a thin stream of tears silently traced the edges of her eyes. Elodie lived in a small village in France called Valfleur. Valfleur, literally Valley of Flowers, was indeed a paradise of blossoms. Vineyards surrounded the area, and from every window and every lane, colorful flowers could be seen. But in Elodie's eyes, Valfleur now looked like a lost gardenia. Garden still full of colors and fragrance, yet missing her heart, her flowers. It had all begun after Anthony left. Elodie and Anthony had grown up together in Valfleur. Their homes were only a short walk apart, and their childhood memories were rooted in the village's lanes, the vineyards, and the mysterious old tree behind the church. Their love had blossomed slowly, much like the changing seasons of Valfleur, starting like the soft breeze of spring, then growing warm and intense like summer sunlight, and finally settling deep and calm like the muted hues of autumn. Elodie still remembered when she was 16, and Anthony had said "Je t'aime" for the first time. They were sitting on the highest hill of Valfleur, from where the entire village, bathed in golden evening light, looked like a dream. Anthony's eyes, always a deep blue, sparkled even brighter that day. He had taken Elodie's hand in his and whispered, as if sharing a secret, "Elodie, je t'aime." Elodie's heart had overflowed with joy, as if someone had released colorful butterflies inside it. From that day on, Valfleur had truly become the Valley of Flowers for her. Elodie and Anthony's love was admired by the entire village. They were always seen together, walking hand in hand in the market, sitting side by side in church, or laughing among the grapevines. In Elodie's memories, every corner of Valfleur was filled with Anthony's laughter and the warmth of his embrace. Without Anthony, Valfleur felt like a song without melody, a painting without color. Anthony had always been ambitious. He loved the peaceful life of Valfleur, but his dreams extended far beyond the village. He wanted to study engineering in Paris and then travel the world. Elodie, on the other hand, was more grounded. She loved the stillness and simplicity of Valfleur. Her dream was to open a small bakery using her mother's recipes and bring joy to the people of Valfleur through warm bread and sweet cakes. When Anthony got accepted into a prestigious university in Paris, Elodie had genuinely congratulated him. She knew how important this was for him, but deep in her heart, a small fear had begun to grow. Paris was far from Valfleur. Could their love survive the distance? Anthony left for Paris, and at first, everything seemed fine. They talked on the phone every day and tried to meet every few weeks. Elodie loved hearing stories about Anthony's life in Paris's studies, his new friends, the buzzing life of the city. But slowly, the phone calls became less frequent, the meetings more sparse, and Elodie began to feel that Anthony was drifting away from her. One day, Anthony came back to Valfleur. He was smiling, as always, but the familiar sparkle in his eyes was missing. They sat on the same hill where they had first confessed their love. The evening light was still golden, But this time, it didn't feel like a dream. Anthony took a deep breath and said, "Elodie, we need to talk." Elodie's heart began to race. She knew what was coming. Anthony explained that his life had changed a lot in Paris. He had made new friends, had new experiences. He felt that he and Elodie were now walking different paths. He didn't want to hurt her, but he believed it was better for both of them to move on. Elodie listened silently. Tears welled up in her eyes, but she didn't let them fall. She didn't want to upset Anthony. She wanted him to be happy even if that happiness no longer included her. When Anthony finished, Elodie simply said, "I understand." That night, Elodie cried for hours. Her heart shattered into 1,000 pieces. It felt as though the garden inside Heartache, blooming with love, had turned barren. Valfleur, the Valley of Flowers, now felt like a lost garden with no blooms. After Anthony left, Elodie's life changed completely. She still woke up every morning, worked at the bakery, interacted with the villagers, but nothing felt the same. Her laughter no longer had that old sparkle. The light had disappeared from her eyes. She always looked tired and distant. Her mother tried her best to comfort her. She told Elodie that time heals all wounds, that she should move on and live her life. But Elodie felt as if her life had ended with Anthony's departure. Ahead of her, there was nothing, just a void, a darkness. She continued to work at the bakery, but her heart wasn't in it. She worked like a machine, without feeling. When customers smiled at her, she would return a faint smile, but it wasn't real. It wasn't from the heart. Sometimes, she would go to the hilltop of Valfleur, the place where she and Anthony had first confessed their love. She would sit there for hours, gazing at the horizon, wondering what Anthony might be doing now, who he might be with, whether he ever thought of her. These thoughts hurt her even more, but she couldn't keep herself from thinking them. The flowers of Valfleur no longer looked as beautiful to her. They were still colorful and fragrant, but they lacked the magic they once held. She felt like even the flowers were mourning with her, that they too had lost their shine. One day, while working in the bakery, an elderly woman came in. Her name was Madame Sophie, the oldest resident of Valfleur. Madame Sophie asked for a loaf of bread, and then, looking into Elodie's eyes, she said, "You look sad, Elodie. What's wrong?" At first, Elodie didn't want to say anything, but there was such empathy in Madame Sophie's eyes that she couldn't hold back. She told her everything about Anthony, her broken heart, her lost garden. Madame Sophie listened quietly. Then, holding Elodie's hand, she said, "Elodie, I know the pain is deep. Losing love is one of the hardest things in the world. But I want you to remember one thing. A garden is only lost when you believe it's lost. Your heart is still a garden, Elodie. Even if there are no flowers right now, the soil is still fertile. Be patient. Have faith. The seasons will change, and the flowers will bloom again." Madame Sophie's words deeply touched Elodie. She realized that she was right. Her heart was still a garden barren for now, perhaps, but still alive. She shouldn't lose hope. She needed to wait, to believe that one day the flowers would bloom again. From that day on, Elodie began to slowly change her life. It wasn't easy, but she didn't give up. She started going for morning walks in Valfleur's gardens. She looked at the flowers closely, felt their colors, their fragrance. Slowly, the flowers began to look beautiful again. The magic began to return. She paid more attention to her bakery. She tried new recipes, began talking more with her customers, bringing smiles to their faces. She realized that bringing joy to others brought joy to her as well. Her work started to come alive again. She began reconnecting with her friends, taking part in village events. She didn't want to be alone anymore. She knew she needed people, needed to share her pain, to lean on others. Little by little, Elodie's heart began to flourish again. The flowers hadn't yet bloomed, but the soil was once again fertile, and a new scent of hope drifted in the air. Elodie knew that pain would never fully go away, and that Anthony's memories would always stay with her. But she also knew that life doesn't stop. The seasons keep changing, and after sorrow comes joy. One spring day, Elodie sat on the Valfleur hilltop. Flowers were blooming all around, vibrant, fragrant blossoms. The evening light was golden, just like the day Anthony had first said he loved her. But this time, Elodie wasn't alone. Madame Sophie sat beside her. Madame Sophie looked at her and smiled. "Look, Elodie, the flowers have bloomed again." Elodie smiled back. Tears filled her eyes, but this time they were not of sorrow, but of joy. She said, "Yes, Madame Sophie, the flowers have bloomed again." And it was true. The garden in Elodie's heart, once lost and barren, was in bloom once more. Anthony's memories remained, but they no longer hurt. They reminded her, instead of the beauty of love and life. Elodie knew now that pain and sorrow will always be a part of life, but love and hope are stronger. And Valfleur, the Valley of Flowers, would always hold a special place in her heart, not as a lost garden, but as one that had bloomed again, and always would. This is the story of every girl who has ever had her heart broken. My friends, don't forget, like and subscribe. Listen for love. Next, love story video. Thanks with respect, Bawa Chandigarya.